Good evening. Welcome back to United TV. Today we are actually looking forward to something happening on the weekend. PSG versus Manchester United. Hopefully we can do a better performance than Arsenal put in the Champions League final and entertain the fans. And maybe see Bruno Fernandes, maybe we see Tielemans, maybe we see Santos play well, maybe Mason Mount will do something which makes people upset and angry in equal measure. But we deserve better. Hopefully, you're looking forward to talking about actual football, which is what we're here for. And we will do a lineup as well. We will give people a bit of information on potential players available, potential players that will not be available for various reasons. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Firstly, thanks for inviting me on, and big up to everyone in the chat. And again, another sunny summer's day. Just so happy with this summer. Keeps me smiling, keeps me grounded, and really excited about the football. PSG. We're talking about Champions League, who we'd like to face. These are the games you relish, because you want to see what we're made of. We want to see their metal. We want to see their patterns of play. We want to see our players get tested and also step up a level. Because, what I've noticed about this club is when we play the big games, our players turn up. So I'm really, really excited to see what happens. And we've got a good core of players coming back for this one, unlike the other couple of friendlies. So, it could be really quite tasty, actually, Rich. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it.
No, just to go through this as well. We'll go through like both squads a little bit. We'll focus on Man United, obviously as Man United fans, but this is the available squad. It looks like there's a lot of people here. I mean, Vitek's been talked about. I don't know whether we could see anything from him, but Laman's coming back. Also, high-profile returns. Bruno Fernandes. We might get to see Tielemans, Cunha. So, apart from a couple of players, which I think for obvious reasons, Lissandro Martinez made the final. Kerry Mainey, I think, an injury, and Sasko, an injury. I think we could see pretty much like we got a good chance of seeing a proper 11 rather than seeing like a kind of a mixed bag of like players that you think will never play together. So we could put out quite a strong 11.
Yeah, exactly. And in Santos and Tillemans, we've got the cover of Mainu, and I think we've got defensive cover to cover Martinez. Rashford, we don't know what's happening with him anyway, and he wasn't a part of the squad last season, so that's not too much of an impact. And then, of course, the other big concern, I suspect, and I'm wondering what the news is on him. Benjamin Sesko still out. But what is so lovely is all the players that are returning. So there's been quite a few videos posted, I don't know if you've seen, of Bruno coming back and shorts of him. And, Cunha's back from Brazil. He scored 4 goals, did he, for Brazil? So, he got his shooting boots on. Diallo had a good campaign at the World Cup also. Mount is finding some form. Tielemans had a good campaign. And Mazraoui had a great campaign, I felt, too. And Lamont's got some action as well. So there's a lot of players coming back who experienced the joy and the adrenaline and the infuse of the World Cup that hopefully they can bring over to us. Very, very exciting.
I'm kind of hoping that PSG put out a strong team as well, because I don't want to see people moaning. Okay, it's like I know it's a pre-season match, but you want to see, how do Man United play against certain players as well? Obviously, PSG have got a world-class team. I know it's only pre-season, but it'd be good to see some of their big players back. And just to go through a few players that are back for PSG, then I think high-profile returns midfielders is the obvious one, isn't it? With Vitinha, Sharon Neves. I think Kabashele wasn't available last game, and he's back as well. So it could be potentially we could see like a few big players for them. Obviously, the absentees from like World Cup, you've got Doué, Barcola, Dembele. I think Barcola might actually be leaving as well, so we'll have to see regarding that one. But now, hopefully, this is going to be, this isn't going to be like. Do you remember the last time we spoke? It was probably about the Wrexham match. So this isn't going to be one of those matches. This is like a serious team. And then I think we've got AC Milan coming up as well. So lots to look forward to in terms of like serious games.
Yeah, I think they had an indifferent game. I think they lost 3-0 to Mallorca, but it was heavily reliant, PSG's team, on the academy, whereas now, you know, like you say, you've got Savnov possibly in goal, you've got Mendes, Beraldo, you've got Bertinia, Neves in midfield, Cavachelia's back, you know, Mouani will be there too, you know, so I think it's going to be a very, very competitive match. It's going to enable our man to play, to Enrique to play the way he wants to play, and so I suspect it's going to be fast paced. It's going to be attacking, and I'm really looking forward to that because that's really suits our game. It really suits our game. If teams come at us, then we exploit. You know, and I think, you know, we're not good at the low block yet. Hopefully, that's something we develop this season. But we are good when it comes to teams who want to press and press back.
Right. Maybe this one as well. Like Mickey makes a good point, saying that, you know, preseason games, we've seen a couple of games now. Fitness levels will be higher for certainly some of the players that have been back for a while. I think, but maybe in the preseason so far, there's been impressive performances from the recent signing Andres Santos. So that's going to be interesting. Mickey says, how scary is that PSG squad? And they're missing a lot of players. I think with PSG, though, it's not like the backup players are weak players. The backup players are top quality. So someone like Barcola can't get in the team. He's obviously a very good player. So I think it's a case of, you know, I'm not going to say, you know, we're not going to sit here and say if we beat PSG in pre-season, everything's great. I mean, it's pre-season, and I don't know how advanced the pre-season is for PSG. I think this is just an indication that maybe for Man United players, it's probably a case of like, can Tielemans, Santos, I mean, they've got a good opportunity to try and guarantee first team starts, haven't they, next season because Kobe Mainoo isn't around. So maybe this is a
Yeah.
really good opportunity to show that, like with Tielemans, I think he's going to want to have the sort of impact that Santos has had. And if you're an academy player like Fletcher or any other player that gets an opportunity, it's probably your kind of one chance to shine, isn't it? We saw Lacey took that chance last match, and, you know, people start talking about him. And maybe academy players, I don't know if this is the case, but maybe it is an opportunity to say, look, maybe they should be kind of like in and around the first team squad rather than be loaned out. So I think there's still a lot to play for. I think for Manu, though, it's a bit worrying because I think Tielemans has got a good shout to be a first team player, and I think Santos is not doing anything wrong either. So maybe this is a good thing though. I mean, Kobe Manu, no guarantee position, so that could be a good thing.
I think it's a good thing for all of them. Well, you need competition. It's kind of like if you and I know that we're in a role and there's no one behind us and there's no one pushing us, subconsciously, you know, you need to drive yourself more to try and move forward. You know, but if you've got someone, you know, who's after that role, you step up just consciously. So I think it's really, really important that we have competition. It's like you and I grew up. Well, we had four strikers, you know, fighting to get on the pitch, four very, very good strikers, and we had the same on the bench. So it's really important we have that. And, you know, look, this is Man United. We want to be winning things. We want to be competing for the league. We want to be going far in the Champions League. We want our players to be scared about, do they get on the pitch? Because when they do get on the pitch, hopefully, you know, they take full advantage of it. And like you say, the youngsters that have come in, it's been lovely to see. You know, Lacey's had a great time. Thwaites has looked good. Amas in his appearances has looked good too. You know, and I forget the chap on the left wing. He's also looked good. I mean, there have been, you know, it's really kind of nice to see they play with each other anyway on a regular basis. And it's good to see that, you know, transpire against better competition, better teams. Atletico Madrid second half was a case in point. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see Tielemans because it's his debut, and you want to hit the ground running. And so I'm really excited to see him. I'm so glad he's here. I really am glad because it just gives me a bit of relief, you know, because I think there's a wealth of experience there. I think he'll be great in the dressing room, and I think he'll be a leader on the pitch. So I think that's really, really important. with players coming in, and also having the young lads who need a bit of direction.
Do you like Agile Beast in the comments saying, look how thin that midfield is on the screen, and you've got, I suppose that in terms of first 11, you'd look at it and go, Bruno Fernandes definitely in the team. Maybe like Tielemans alongside Santos, possibly, but you got Mason Mount, and then apart from like because Kobe Mainoo's injured, there's not much depth there, is there? So I think like when we see stories about Man United, will they get a midfielder? Will they get a left back? I think we have to get a left back, surely, don't we? Like you can't be going into. Can you imagine if this was Champions League fixture and we had a Premier League game 3 days later? You'd look at the squad and think, okay, you need a bit. I think we need like one extra person in there at the moment because I think it could be mainly this game. It might be Tielemans next game, but there's going to be like an injury or suspension, and I wouldn't be counting Fletcher as like a first team player. I think that's not really appropriate to throw academy players in. But in terms of this, like, do you look at the squad and think also we're talking about an injury to Sesko? There's no backup. Like Chidowebi's not a backup, Wheatley's not one, Xerxes, and I think probably at least two of those players will be gone by the time the season starts. So that again highlights a big issue. And someone was posting this morning, I think it might be Yardi, saying that would Bayern Munich want to buy Sesko, and I was thinking he's literally our only striker at the club. So there's an issue there that we haven't talked about too much, and that's the lack of striker cover and the fact that actually a lack of striker to start this preseason match, which is a bit of a disappointment.
It is, and they have talked about bringing in a striker. I just wish they'd get a move on. If Vlahovic is available on a free, he wanted 130k to extend his contract at Juve. It's not a massive amount of money. He's got Champions League experiences. He'll get you goals. He's not a major threat to Sesko, but the drop off, there isn't a drop off. I think he learns from him. And I think they're great to have. If you had a Vlahovic and a Sesko, that's great. If they want to go Premier League proven, you've got a Mateta on knee concerns all looked at. Premier League proven, scores goals. Again, not a major threat to Sesko's development, but it means that you have rotation. There's no drop off. So there are options there. I entirely agree with you. Left back, the people have touted that maybe he plays Dorgu left back. He doesn't. Every single game that Dorgu has started for Carrick, he's either been a left attacking midfielder or on the odd occasion a right attacking midfielder. So he's not going to play as a left back. I just don't see it. Luke Shaw's in his final year, so they need to make a decision about that. But they need to bring someone in. They need to bring someone in who's rotating and learning off him this year. So when he drops off from form, Luke Shaw's there to protect him. You don't want to bring a player in and throw him in and then to feed him to the wolves. You need to make sure their first year's transition is fully supported. You have Amas too. I said it earlier. He's 19 years of age. Develop him. Where he needs to work on is interceptions. That's the same. But he's great going forward. He's dynamic in that regard. So develop that part of his game, but you can't have him as a starter if you're still developing the lad. So you need to protect him too. You don't throw him to the wolves. So certainly need a left back, and I would go as far as saying we need a centre back. I can't rely on the likes of De Ligt and Martinez. I just can't. And so I look at Aidan Haven, I look at Harry Maguire, and Harry Maguire, let's be honest, he's coming to the end of his game. And we need someone more dynamic. But he will work in some matches, but not so much in others. So you need four. And I don't look at Martinez and De Ligt as reliable enough to be counted as part of that four. So we need another. We really do. And we need to get rid of one of Martinez. Martinez is in his last year. De Ligt for me, has been a complete failure. I'm done. I think it's just been injury after injury, and he's had some good games and he's had some fair games. I feel for him, a lovely guy, but it just hasn't worked. And you've got to be cutthroat if you want to compete at the top. And the midfield option, like you say, we do need another midfielder in. Definitely, you can't rely on the young lads. And I'm hoping that they're looking at the Camavinga, and if not Camavinga, they're looking at Buadi, because they're available. Alex Scott is available, and even Wharton is still available. So, and they have the money because they've only spent 80 million or so. So they have the money to bring someone in, and let's hope they do.
Is there anything you want to see in like pre-season matches? Because I'll go for a few of the comments. We've got United Side Die says, I really want to see Yora and Heaven paired at the back, give them some chemistry together. And Mickey says, do you want to see Yora at right back, or is that experiment done? I think with this one, we only saw a little bit of it, didn't we? In terms of this one as well, Niche fan, welcome to the chat as well. He's not happy about this level of signings. I say, well, inactivity in signings. I think it is a bit annoying what's happening. Apparently, according to Tommy, we're linked to a Colombian centre back, which Scout's been watching. We are linked to a lot of players. I think the frustration is that we're getting towards the latter start of like a bit of pre-season now, and there's not a lot of there's not a lot of people coming in. And I think with this one, the worry is the things we've been moaning about for years, haven't we? Like, and it feels a bit like we keep saying the same thing over and over again. So if people watched Red Devil United 3 years ago, welcome to Groundhog Day. We're still moaning about our left back situation, but the names have changed. Instead of like at the time, I'm trying to think of it. At the time, we probably talked about a mass about 3 years ago as well, as about when he's going to be ready. But do you look at it and think like maybe we're looking at the team now and thinking that is Michael Carrick going to experiment at all in pre-season, or do you think that's kind of done with and he's going to start playing people in the appropriate position? So we're going to see. Will we say Aiden Heaven and Yoro? I get the feeling we're probably going to see Maguire plus one of those players. I'd imagine that we're going to see as soon as Dallow's back, he's going to be in right back, isn't he? That's it. I don't know if we're going to be seeing any crazy shocks.
Yeah, I mean, what is good, you can have Luke Shaw and Amash sharing the minutes. You can have Delo Maz sharing minutes, and then you can rotate, one off Heaven and Maguire alongside a Euro, or a Euro and a Maguire. It depends how you want to play it. So it's good that we have those options. And again, in midfield, there are bountiful options too. And again, across the front line, with the exception of striker, which is so exhausting, Rich. We're still talking about strikers. Get the strikers sorted. Get it sorted, and don't give us a Mbeumo up there or a Cunha playing up there, or hold on to a Rashford and get him playing up there. Just buy a striker. Just buy one, regardless of what we're doing with Xerxes. Just get one in. It's really simple. Do it. Because you need it. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I need to kind of get more information about what's going on with Sesko, because surely he hasn't, that injury isn't from the Herdings, which was back in March or April, wasn't it? Surely that can't still be an offshoot from that.
I don't know. Is it time to get worried about certain injuries as well? Ian's in the chat says Nottingham Forest owner has more ambition than our own. And it says he's watching Madrid buy players from Mourinho, knowing exactly what he's going to need, and say Carrick gets bought rubbish. Do you think regarding this one that Malps has said as well, he's getting popcorn ready for the season? But I think there's a lot of negativity in the chat. Let's put it that way in terms of like what we're seeing at Manchester United. And I think you know me. I try to be positive, but I do occasionally hit the wall. And I think it depends on I was a bit tired after my holiday, and I was looking at news over the start of this week, and I was just thinking, where is the news? Like literally, there is no news, and it is a bit frustrating because we laugh about it, but the issues we've been saying about the club haven't gone away, have they? The fact we used to have 4 strikers, and now at the moment we've got none. We've got no available striker to take on PSG. And I'm not going to count Tudor and Wheatley in terms of like forward options, because they're not really forward options. There's no way Xerxes is going to remain at the club, surely. Like there's no way he should be. So do you like you're more patient than I think a few people. Are you starting to look at it and thinking, but we need to start getting deals done? Like I know there's a cost saving issue, and it's good to make sure you don't spend too much, but we have to get a striker in, because I think Benjamin Sesko, the best case scenario has got to be he's probably going to miss like a third of the games, isn't he? Based on last season and so far, that I can't see him playing every match at all. So we need to have some options there. And I think keeping Rashford and saying he's a striker, I mean, obviously it will be unpopular, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense for a team that's trying to improve and run professionally.
Yeah, I mean, look, the way if they can't sell him, it's 15 million pound salary is cheaper than paying 40 million for a strike and then salary. But I would just loan him out and get a Vlahovic, which then you can pay him half of Rashford's salary and you get him on a free. But whether they want to commit to that contract is another thing. I was just looking at Sesko. So they said, you know, the injury, of course, he picked up against Liverpool when he hit the hoardings. They said he's on an individualized training and rehab program. I mean, we've seen the photos of him. He looks much more bulky. He looks physical. So he has been doing training on grass. But they are confident that he's going to be available for the Premier League opener. So I think what they're doing is they're shielding him. They're not rushing him back in these friendlies because, of course, you know, they're friendlies. But, you know, is he going to be up to speed for the opener? If he's not getting any pre-season, he's not. So, you know, that's the other thing. So it may take him a couple of matches to get going. But yeah, in regards to your question, look, Delot, our third signing last year, Sesko, was on August the 9th. The season before, Delot and Mazraoui, not Delot, De Ligt and Mazraoui were bought on the 13th. So if we buy a player next week, I'm okay. I'm not saying that's right. We should have bought 4 or 5 players by now, and they need to change that. They seem to change things incrementally at this club. They go from going 1 year heavy on midfielders, going 1 year heavy on strikers, going 1 year heavy on defenders. That's not the way you do transfers as far as I'm concerned. This year, their elemental advance is we're not telling you what we're doing. We're not allowing these transfers to drag on.
It's really weird, isn't it? Like, can you think of any other club that just goes, right, this it's almost like Jesse's Diets from the Fast Show. This year we're mostly going to be signing midfielders. And I was just thinking that are we just going to be sat here going, let's just buy 4 midfielders and call this is the midfield transfer window? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
This isn't how football clubs should be run. And I know I'll say a shout out to Kawin in the chat who says he said Real G's move in silence. And I was thinking that if they want to cut the leaks, they've done a fantastic job at cutting the leaks. There's literally no information out there. There's so many in the nose that have literally just been guessing and saying anything that comes to mind, and nothing has happened that they've said so far. But do you think it sounds crazy that what sort of club would just only need to fix like midfield? Like most clubs that need midfielders also need either a left back, a centre back, a striker, winger. And I think for me, like a sensible window would be okay, focus on midfield because we need to, but the left back situation, the centre back situation, the problem I think is that a lot of parts of the team have been neglected for a lot of years. And if you're trying to fix them in one window, it's literally not possible. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'd say go for quality if possible. And if you can get youth with quality, that's ideal because that player might remain at the club for a significant amount of time. So I'm always like there's nothing wrong with Tielemans, but I'm more positive about Santos, if that makes sense. And there's nothing really wrong with Robinson as a left back, but I'm a lot more positive about Hall if these are the options. And I was always more positive about Benjamin Sesko than I was about Ollie Watkins. I know Ollie Watkins, they're both good players, but my point is, if you keep fixing the team with short-term options, you're never really fixing the team. You're always kind of like, I don't know, it's like you're always like rebuilding the year after year.
There's no longevity. There's no longevity, is there? It's just a continual rebuild, which indeed it has been for the last 15 years. It's just been continuous and without very little success, you know.
So what we might do, Stephanie said the sound of silence is deafening. Yeah, we should start listening to the sound of silence. I mean, it's quite depressing, which might be appropriate for some people. Maybe, although I do quite like that song.
I'm hearing Depeche Mode. Enjoy the silence.
Yeah. But I suppose the silence is better than having like rants about leaks and things. But we'll do like a lineup, and we'll put a lineup together that people maybe a combination of what do we think we're going to see? What do you hope to see? I think what I'll do is I'll kind of like move in this so people can see what players are available. I think we've got
Yeah,
to put Lamans in to start with. I want to see a professional goalkeeper at Man United every single match, and I think don't know why Vitek's there. I think he's going to be loaned out, or he's going to be sold anyway, isn't he?
he's
So
going. Yeah.
we're going to put Lamans in. The big question is, do you think Michael Carrick's going? I think he will go if he's going to mix things up. He'll go experienced in the first half for sure. But do you think we're going to see pretty much an old school left like Luke Shaw, Dallow, Maguire? Are we going to see the same old, same old? Do you think to start with?
Yeah, I think you'll probably start with Delot over Mazzarri because Mazzarri still coming back from the World Cup. Or bring him on second half, whereas Delot, I think he did play, didn't he? He came back from the World Cup too. But I think Delot's fitness is incredible. Apparently, he was training as soon as he came back, so he had a very short break. So I think Delay starts is what I'm thinking. But yeah, I think it'll be a traditional four that we've seen last season.
Yeah,
What
United
are the
so Dice
chat
says
think?
Tielemans will need to be replaced again in 3 years' time. I guess that an optimistic response to that would be 3 years gives us enough time to. But again, this is Man United, so we give.
Well, in
We
3 years'
gauge
time, it'll
people.
be time to do the midfielders again, won't it?
I know, but by the time the problem is that this feels like a rebuild that will never end if we let Ineos like to do these sort of signings. But again, it is frustrating. But maybe do you know what's weird? That there's definitely like an undercurrent of younger signings with like got Lamans in, Dorgu, Aiden Heaven, Santos, and maybe maybe there is a bit of longevity in some of the signings, and maybe I'm being a bit negative with like highlighting Tielemans, but I think maybe you do need a mix, and maybe with Tielemans, at least Tielemans wasn't £70 million. That's the positive regarding that. At least it wasn't like Bruno Guimaraes was big money, I think, for his age. I mean, you can argue whether he had been a good signing for us, but I think getting Tielemans for 35 and Bruno was like 75. That's not a bad deal.
It's a great deal. For 5 years, I think is a bit crazy, but I think they're just looking at amortization there. And I would have given him four with the option of one. I think would be more sensible. But I think he's a great player to have. And look, if we're bringing in young talents, and you need leaders, you need people with experience, and he's got leaps and bounds of it. So I think I understand what's being said. I also appreciate that you need to sometimes have that experience in the team just to kind of navigate when time gets tough on that pitch, and it will in the Champions League and the Premier League. You need someone to look at, and I think Tielemans is one of those bodies that you would look to. I know it's a short-term fix, and it would be great if this club spent big on getting a young 23-year-old off Tielemans' ilk. They're just not going to do it at the moment. So we have to kind of just appreciate what they are doing. I have to live in today. I can't live in next season or the season after that. I just have to think, is this good enough today? And today it's good enough.
So I would say people watching, if you want to get some lineup suggestions in, please go for it. So we're going to go from like the defense forward to midfield. So what I'll do is I'll put in the most obvious choice because I would be surprised if we deviate too much from this. And maybe what we'll see is, do you remember the first match we talked about? And we were saying he'll probably put in most experienced players to start with, and then maybe we'll see something after that. But I mean, Dallo is like the opposite of like Phil Jones, isn't he, with like availability? So I think he's there. To be honest, actually, it's probably good that we do have a player like Dallo who is at least available because I
Yeah.
think we need to look at some of the centre back issues and the fact we don't have a lot of options to put in there. I mean, who do you think we're going to see? Like, do you think we'll see Maguire plus Yoro, or what are you thinking?
I really wish he would start Heaven and Euro. I really do. I think for this game, but he may go for Heaven and Maguire. He probably will go for Heaven and Maguire because you need Heaven to do the line breaking passes. You need Maguire, and also Heaven's quite physical. He's got pace. Maguire doesn't have that, but Maguire has a physicality. and he can be a bit more of a defensive anchor. He can sit back a lot more. And then, if Heaven pushes up, then Delo and Shaw and Maguire can go into a free. If Delo pushes up, then Shaw, Heaven and Maguire can go into a free. And I think that's the way they'll do it. One of the fullbacks will push up. That's why we need a great left back, because I think Delo should be sat back. And I think, in fact, it should be a Mazraoui, who defensively is great. And then you push up with say a Luke Hall. But I would probably go for that four.
Do you think with this, like Ajabi says, he'd rather go for Yoro and Heaven? I think that I would say that the aim this season has got to be that okay, we can start with like saying if Sandro Martinez, when he comes back, maybe he's going to be in the team with Yoro or with Heaven. But I think the problem is going to be that at the moment, Man United don't have someone that's dominant in the air. Like De Ligt was good in the air, but Sandro Martinez isn't as effective, and Yoro and Aiden Heaven aren't as effective either as Maguire. So we're quite good on the ball, but I think defensively, when we don't see Maguire, we're seeing, I think it was against Leeds, we were seeing Sandro Martinez and Yoro getting bullied in the air, and it was just a big problem. So I think with this one, then in terms like with Maguire, I've always said that they renewed his contract out of necessity because they didn't, or they weren't able to, or they weren't happy to spend enough to replace him. They should have replaced him, but they haven't done that, so they need to keep him because at the moment he's got a skill set that's lacking. With the only other person that could do that job, I think, is injured all the time. So it's a bit of a shambles.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do want to see Euro and Heaven to start. I think that you got to make a decision about this at some point. And sometimes you've just got to go with it. And if it doesn't work, then you bring back Maguire. Because if you keep putting Maguire in, then we will never know. So this is pre-season. It means nothing. Do it now. See if they work well together. He's had to play on the right because we had no right backs. But put him alongside. I agree with that too. I think both work. But if this is pre-season and you want to see how they work well, and you want to see how they work well with competition, this is a great match for them. We know what Maguire is about. We all know what Maguire is about, but we haven't seen enough of Euro and Heaven together. And the only way we're going to see that is if we give them matches, and not just one. You need to give them 3, 4, or 5. And if you start with the pre-seasons and then the easier matches that start in the league, then you've got that movement of 4 or 5 matches where we can see what their frailties are, what needs to be worked on, and
I was thinking we're like Heaven and Euro. It's almost like Man United need to work out, right? Are these two players? I know they're quite young, but it feels like they've been in and around top flight football for, certainly in Euro's case now, a few years. You've got to work out, are they good enough for the first team? And hopefully one of them is, in which case we need to work out, right, if we're going to replace Maguire or Euro, or De Ligt or Martinez, hopefully replace a couple of those. We can work out what kind of skill set we need. Like if someone like Aiden Heaven who's got the physical presence, if he can develop the skill in the air that Maguire's got, then maybe we can look at going, actually, okay, Aiden Heaven and Euro might be a good partnership. But if it doesn't work out that way, maybe we need to look at getting somebody that can play alongside Euro instead. So I don't know. But I agree with you. This should be like Michael Carrick's plan over the season. Can you get a situation where you're not reliant on De Ligt, Maguire, or Martinez, and Heaven and Yoro work in a back four? And if they end up the season where those two are good enough in the back four, brilliant. I do get the feeling we'll have to replace. I think we'll have to get a new centre back at some point. And to be honest, if Man United could offload 2 of those 3 players we just mentioned and get 2 players in, I think we got enough people in, but they're not, like you said, they don't count as full team players, do they? Because they don't play much more than half the season.
Yeah, and I think we do need 2 centre backs. I think they've been clever with Fredrickson. Look, they could have loaned him out to their own club, but they've sold him, got some money. They've got a massive buyback clause. They've got a massive sell-on clause. So it's clever accounting. You sell him to your own club, get that money in. If he improves and develops really well, because you've sent him over there to get developed, you bring him back, and then there's 1 centre back. but I think we definitely need two. I think Maguire needs replacing come the end of the season. I really do. He needs to be, if he is going to be here next season, he really needs to be a bit part player. He needs to be the fifth centre back. And I think Martinez, it's done. You don't renew his contract. And I think De Ligt, look, it's make or break for him. But I think, poor choice of words, but I don't think it's I don't think he's the answer. I don't think he's the answer either. I haven't
I'll
seen
go
enough
through
of
the
him.
comments. And Niche Fan says he thinks that Euro needs shipping out. And I suppose like Euro, that I guess the expectation of Euro was quite high considering what we paid for him. And Sporting Gold, welcome to the chat. He says Maguire is our best centre back at the moment, unfortunately. And Mark says, given Maguire another year was a joke. I think from looking at these comments, I think the
It's
take home
mixed.
message from a lot of people is this back four feels like it's nowhere near where it should be. And it feels a bit like it's not much far from the back four we had years ago, is it? So,
And let's not forget, Euro had to have his first season in a new league, in a new club, with a new language, with guess who behind him? Anana. He had to play with Anana behind him. It's just kind of like, so we need to kind of give these players some slack. He's a young lad, and we didn't make his transition easy. We also had three different managers, different formations. I think he's a good player. I think at right back he's done really well. He's shown his versatility. Not that that's his position, but it tells me he's a good footballer. And he was striking up a good relationship with Martinez, and then he picked up a knock. We just haven't seen enough consistent games. I think if the fan base get to see Euro on a regular basis, I think they'll really enjoy the type of footballer he is. But we need to ensure we give him regular matches, and he hasn't had that. He hasn't had that consistently, and he hasn't had that in a fixed formation under a fixed manager with a fixed goalkeeper behind him. Yeah.
Kawin says he thinks Euro and Heaven are, say, years away from leading the team. And maybe that's maybe I don't know. I think there's obviously some quality there. I think I tend to be more impressed with Aiden Heaven,
That was amazing.
based on what I've seen, because he hasn't played anywhere near the amount of games as Euro, and I think he's a decent signing. But I think with this option, maybe the point here is that Aiden Heaven and Euro aren't going to suddenly replace Martinez and Maguire. Man United will have to replace Martinez and Maguire in the transfer market, and then Aiden Heaven and Euro will need a bit more time. Like certainly, I think I would be surprised if they're first team players by the end of of the season that's coming up. But hopefully one of them can be, and certainly they can play a lot more minutes. But to move on to like midfield, and I know this feels a bit like it's been a rant about the lack of spending on defence, but it's supposed to be a preview for PSG. Midfield options. What do you reckon? Are we going to see Santos, Tielemans, Bruno Fernandes? That's my question. Is that going to be, with Manu injured, is that our starting midfield?
Yeah, I would hope so. I think Mount still gets a look in. I think Mount still gets some game time considering his performances. I think maybe he may be loath to drop him out of the starting lineup, and maybe he brings in Tielemans in the second half. I think Santos probably sees out the game, so I think it might be Mount and Santos. Just because I think it's important for a bit of consistency there also. And I think then you ease Tielemans in. Tielemans doesn't have to start the game. There's no pressure on him to start the game. Mount has been playing fairly well. And if he's playing and he's not injured, you play Mount, I think, and Santos alongside him. Or he could even go for Tielemans alongside him. But I think Mount does start, in my view.
Okay, I'll give people a few minutes to just say what they think. Which two players do you think will start? Mickey says, "Why risk Mason Mount?" I mean, would that be 3 games in a row for Mason Mount? I don't want to tempt fate for Mason Mount. Niche fan says Santos and Tielemans. I really want to see Santos and Tielemans just to see like how does this work. I know it's pre-season, but I get the feeling Mason Mount would be maybe a replacement for Bruno Fernandes, possibly, but we'll see what happens. So I'll go for a few comments. Yeah, at least we're not signing Jordan Henderson, says Ian. Yeah, at least we're not doing that. Stephanie says Santos Tielemans to start. Let me just put this in to start with. So I have to work out how to spell Tielemans. It's not. There you go. Maybe I should just put in Yuri. There can't be too many players starting with a Y. So Tielemans and Santos. To be honest, if we'd have done this stream about 2 years ago, or say no, actually no, 2 months ago, did anybody have Santos and Tielemans on their bingo card? I don't think either of
No,
them were on the radar of
I
anybody.
don't think anyone in the world did, to be quite honest. Other than, and I don't even think Ineos had him on their bingo card. I think they were chasing Santos, but I think Tillemans they just probed and discovered.
I think Tillemans is like when you go to the shop and you think, oh damn, they bought like the thing I wanted. Oh, hang on, there's something that's been reduced. It looks like quite a good deal. We'll
I
just take
wanted
that home
him.
because we do need one.
I wanted him 3 years ago. We could have got him on a free. They should have done that deal then. But yeah, it is. We are where we are. But yeah, he was available then. And,
Do
that's
you know
what
what I was
Villa did.
thinking like, this morning? Because Man United seem to have been linked to Robinson recently, and I'm trying to think of what other players we're linked to. I think we still see links to the same sort of old players. I was thinking that it's almost like if we did a stream 3 years ago, we'd be looking at going. People would say in the chat saying, "Let's get Tillemans in. Let's go for Robinson." And
Yeah,
I was thinking,
yeah.
don't worry, guys. In 3 years, by the time by the time you've moved past it, and then you're not enthusiastic about these deals, then we'll move. And it's almost like I think and you also like watched a few YouTube streams from about 4 years ago and thought, right, this is our list. Let's get them in.
Who was a Barcelona? I've forgotten now. The midfielder that Ten Hag wanted, and we spent a whole summer trying to chase him, and he wouldn't go because Barca hadn't paid his wages. He's still there in the heart of midfield.
Right, you want Frankie De Jong?
Frankie de Jong, yeah. So with Rodri possibly going to Barca, we might finally get our de Jong.
No, I saw a story this morning, and it was after I did the stream, and the story was apparently Frankie De Jong's relationship with the Barcelona manager is broken now. And there were stories saying, Man United fans, would you take him? And I was thinking, for God's sakes, don't start posting this on Twitter because there's no way I'm doing a Frankie De Jong stream like in 2026.
It's like Wesley Snyder,
Unless
isn't it?
Ornstein says it's advanced, in which case I will kind of like find a picture and go, what the hell's going on? But no. Um, what do you think of this team at the moment as we've got on the screen? Like, we've got a good goalkeeper. I mean, the defense is, I'm going to say, a bit shaky in terms of like, we
It
know what we
is.
saw last season.
It's
Does
our
the
weakest
midfield
point.
look better than, say, like, obviously these players are better than Agate. Do you think it's going to be more functional than, like, we're basically trying to replace Casemiro and Mainu, aren't we? Because Mainu's injured. Do you think this is going to work okay? I think Santos has looked good. Tielemans we haven't seen in the team yet, but I guess like see how they play alongside Bruno is going to be interesting.
You know my view on Casemiro. I think he brought a wealth of experience, great in the dressing room. For half the season, he was playing 60 minutes, one game a week. So it's kind of like Tillemans has got to be an improvement. He really does. I'm not worried about that. I think Santos is such an upgrade on Agate. And Mainu slots in there perfectly. I look at Santos and Mainu as similar profiles, to be quite honest. I think they can do the defensive work and they can do the work in the final third. So they're very exciting. They're going to be very exciting. So I don't worry if Mainu's out or Santos is out. They cover each other in that regard. And with the possibility of another midfielder coming in, I think it bodes well in our midfield. There's circulation if Mount stays fit too, with Bruno or who's never unfit, but it means that Mount can also slip into that midfield if need be. And then I think we've got enough up front, other
Do you
than our
think now? I was going
striker.
to say, for me, apart from the Benjamin Sesko injury issue, the forwards has been probably the one part of the team I've been actually happy with over the last, say, at least the last 6 months because they've been scoring a lot of goals. And the options we got, I think, like Xerxes, for me, I think he's going to be sold. Wheatley, I think isn't Wheatley off to, is it Everton? Like, is Wheatley going to Everton? Or I think he might be.
I did hear that. I mean, there's an impasse, isn't there, with Xerxes, because they Juve want to take him on a loan with an obligation to buy, and Man United want to be an obligation to buy. They want an option to buy. So that's the kind of impasse that we're at the moment. 35 million is the fee they're looking at if that loan
It's
to
pretty
buy
cheap, isn't
happens.
it? But I
Yeah, it's
can't
cheap.
see there being like, considering how much money changes hands for certain players. Do you look at this though? I think the big concern is if Man United are feeling that their business is midfield and left back and left wing, I think they need to be looking at who's going to be scoring the goals. Because at the moment, looking at this, I think Cunha and Mbeumo walk into the team every single week. And after that, there's a big drop off in actually who's carrying the goal threat. Like obviously, Marcus Rashford will feature in this unless he gets sold. But at the moment, Mbeumo, Cunha, they score goals. But if Saska's injured, Armadillo, like Cheetos, there's nothing much there, is there? So
It's nothing. No. I think they must know that. They must know that. I mean, because there has been a lot of noise that we are looking at a striker. We need to get one in. They need to move, and I would hope next week, if they're waiting on the midfielder next week, the two deals I want them to see them doing is the left back and the striker. Just get it done. That's what they need to do. Just get it done. Just do it. Enough of the nonsense. Just move, get those deals done in, because it's what is it, the 23rd where we play, so it's not far, our first match. So and I know it's Hull, and they might think, well, we've got enough v Hull, so we can kind of take our time. They just need to be more proactive, and they need to be more professional, because that's not the way they should be behaving. They need to be much more. They need to expedite these deals. We're not asking for anything here. We're in mid-August and we've only got 2 deals done. Be proactive. Act like you know what managing a sports brand looks like. It's not like you've just woken up today and it's the first thing you're having to do and learn your trade. You've been doing it for a decade. So I just hope that they do that next week. So I'm not kind of panicking, but if that doesn't happen next week, I think I'm exhausted with them. I think any kind of good faith I've got for them, and it's very little. It's on the brink. It's gone.
yeah, I think I had the similar sort of stance at the start of the transfer window. I said I'm going to be patient. I did say at the time that I'm not patient in real life. I'm generally not patient. So I was kind of forcing myself to be patient and going, come on, Rich, be patient. It's only June. It's only June. And then I've been saying, right, it's only July. We still got August. And now it's like the 6th of August. I'm looking at it thinking, every time we do a lineup, it feels like there's a very limited choice. And we're like one injury away from effectively starting to push people into the wrong position. So in terms
Yeah.
of like the lineup today, for PSG game. What do you reckon we see? We've got to see Mbeumo on the right, surely, or are we going to push him as a striker? Cunha's back, surely he starts. I mean, how do you organise this a front three then? We have got a few options, so let me just remind people and yourself. The options we got are like surely Xerxes can't be playing, but Mbeumo,
No.
Cunha, Armadillo, are they going to be the options? Because that's going to be, I suppose Mbeumo's had a few games now, so he's going to be up to speed. And
Dorgu as
maybe
well.
it's going to have to be those three.
Dorgu could start on the left. Cunha could be pushed up front and Mbeumo on the right. Or it could be Diallo and Mbeumo Cunha, or Diallo and Mbeumo Dorgu. So there are options. I don't think Xerxes gets in. I think Xerxes, if he's close to a deal, do you risk it? Do you bring him on? I don't think they do. They risked it with the last couple of matches because we had none of our attackers back really, and we're having to play the youngsters. You've got Diallo, so I think Diallo and Cunha might go up front this time possibly because he was playing up front for Brazil, so maybe they utilise him there. Dorgu on the left and Mbeumo on the right is probably what I would do. They might want Diallo's pace on the right. That's the other thing.
You think? I thought actually. I know can't remember who it was in the comments that said they wanted to get Thiago from Brentford, and he had a fantastic season with
I'd
Brentford.
love
Like
him.
scored a
Yeah.
crazy amount of goals. Maybe for some reason, I think the matches I saw in the World Cup, he didn't have a great tournament, but it is international football. But Cunha did look quite good as a striker, didn't he? In terms of like, I'm trying to think, the game they got knocked out, then putting Endrick on was probably a mistake. He missed a sitter to win that game. So, do you reckon Ahmed might start on the right, possibly?
Yeah, possibly for pace.
It's
And
quite a
Buma
pacey
has
attack
been,
overall, isn't it?
yeah,
Like Dorgu,
yeah,
Ahmad Cunha. It's quite
yeah.
aggressive.
I wouldn't be surprised if Buma gets to looking ahead of him. I think he really, the character really fancies Buma, and I think it might be unfair if he doesn't start the match, seeing that he's played the last couple. But it might be a way of freshening up the legs. But yeah, I think, and that to me, it looks more solid now. To your point, when you suddenly put those attackers in, it does, and you put Bruno there too. Bruno makes such a difference. And then you look down Tillemans and Santos. If that was a main, I think I would probably have a bit more assurance too. I think it looks better. I think the problem again is the defense is rancid. It's rancid, but the attack is
The thing
great.
is, though, the thing that's annoying about Ineos and the situation at Man United is the transfer window last year gave us like players like Kenyon and Wemo that are going to be regular first team players with guaranteed goals almost and quality. And if you look at the front three we got here, like we put Cunha as a striker, but to be honest, like Mbeumo can be a striker. Dorgu can actually play quite effectively on the right and Cunha on the left. So this could actually be. Do you remember when we used to have who was it? Greenwood, Rashford, and Anthony Martial,
Martial,
and they could
yeah,
kind of like alternate over the course of a match.
rotate,
But
yeah,
you could have this where, like, maybe you could put Mbeumo up front and Dorgu on the right, Cunha on the left, and it could change. But I'd be, to be honest, I'd be happy if Man United did do that, where the players can move around a little bit, because I think Mbeumo is more effective on the right, and maybe also it'd be more difficult for defence. Now, say for example, Man United. I know it's pre-season, but if it's in a serious Premier League match and you start like this, I'd be happy starting like this. And if it's not working, then maybe you can change things around and you can go, actually, we'll put Cunha's more effective there, Dorgu's there, just because maybe in Bremo, just depending on how the game's going. And you could rotate like that. I think the only option you don't have really is, I mean, Dorgu's versatile, but we're not going to be putting him as a striker. And the question, like
what's
with Rashford as well, I think Man United are trying to get a player that has Rashford's attributes, but they want to sell Rashford first, which is making it difficult because I think Rashford could occupy this position obviously quite easily, but would probably be he might be similar effectiveness to Mbeumo in terms of like he's not going to be ideal there, but he will carry more of a goal threat than say like a Xerxes or Rasmus Højlund would have done. But it wouldn't be a popular move at all.
Yeah, I think it would be a divisive move. That's the only problem. I think also the wages are an issue. But what's really good about what you just, what I noted about what you said was, all of these players, no matter what position they're in, they can play. They can move across the pitch. They can confuse defenses. They're not going to be fixed. Cunha can drift in. Cunha can sit back. Dorgu can drift in. Dorgu can hit the right. They can swap. It's. And Buma can go up front, Cunha can go up front. There's so much movement in their play. There's so much intelligence in their play, and I think, and then when you've got Bruno behind, just finding them into space, I think it makes for an exciting attacking attack, and just perfect for a game like PSG. Just perfect for a game like PSG. So, that's going to be an exciting watch. It really is. And it's going to be exciting to see this combination in the Premier League too. And then you've got players like, Diallo can come on. Hopefully his improvement in the World Cup will continue in his resurgence in our team. And then you've got the dynamicness of Mainu, who can also move up the pitch when he's playing. Santos can also do that. Tillemans has got a great eye and a great ball. So it just makes, we've got more players now that are more comfortable on the ball. And when you've got more players that are more comfortable on the ball, you generally dictate how the match goes.
There's more goal threat in our team. When you talk about, say, Lacey as well, I don't know too much about Thompson, but he's obviously going to be maybe like a third option on the left. But with Lacey, I think forcing his way maybe into contention and looking pretty good in terms of putting crosses in. Then the big issue is attack. I'm not really too interested in wingers because I think we've got depth here. You know, Cunha or Lacey or Thompson on the left, and you've got Almajalo. I think Dorgu and Mbeumo. That's you have three credible options on the right. And I think the big problem is we only have one option up front generally. Otherwise, it's a compromise. So I think at the moment the thing that's concerning me is I'm not sure our defense is good enough. Like I know everybody's been talking about midfield, but I don't think we fixed our defense a year ago when we, do you remember that
No.
window or 2 years ago when we got De Ligt and we got Mazraoui and we got, who else did we sign? We did get, I think, Yora at the same time. I don't think Yori's improved as much as we thought he would a couple of years ago. I'm not saying he can't get to that level, but I think Man United need to replace Maguire, say Maguire, Martinez. I think we need to replace those three older midfielders with defenders with better options. And the Luke Shaw thing. I mean, if I'm talking about Luke Shaw next season, I might
Oh
just
God.
have to
Oh
start
God.
doing like
Yeah.
I know different style channel. I'll just talk about I don't anything that doesn't involve left back conversations. But what do you think then in terms of this team? Is this the first 11 actually doesn't look too bad if you consider that we've got good goal threat, and Benjamin Sesko would be there, so we'd probably be looking at maybe Dorgu on the bench. I'm guessing at the moment.
Do you know what would make this team look much better? Is two decent fullbacks. You know, it's kind of like you look at that squad. There are only two new faces. You know, and it's kind of like we've got more competitions this season. We want to improve on where we were last season because the first half of last season, people forget, was diabolical. So we need to improve on that. We probably will because there'll be more consistency. We've got a settled manager, hopefully. But we need fullbacks. You know, if they had their heads screwed on well, three midfielders, two fullbacks, one centre back, and one striker. That's all they needed to bring in this summer. It's not a massive ask. You know, that's 3, 5, 6, that's 7 players. It was doable. It was really doable, and they had the money for it. And I think all of us would have been far happier. You know, we've been very patient with Man United and these owners, and they just don't seem to. They seem to take advantage of that rather than, you know, show courtesy to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'll go through a few of the comments and see what people are thinking. Vril said, "No offense, but this looks like Brighton or Brentford team." Let's say Brighton. Well, I don't know. I think it's better than Brighton. But the problem is, I think Windsor better made a good point as well. Also, welcome John to the chat. The issue is Manchester United have, let's say, okay, last season we played one FA Cup game, didn't we? We played one League Cup match. We played 0 European matches. So we're going to play loads more games. And at the moment, we don't have any more. We have different faces, but Tielemans and Santos just replace Agate, who's out for a significant amount of time, and we replace Casemiro, who's left. And I think Toby Collier has been told he can leave the club. So
Yeah.
effectively, we're going to have the same or less options, aren't we, or fewer options? And in defence, like we don't have any new faces in defence. And in terms of like attacking players, we got an academy player from Spurs. And where's the improvement? Like that, Casemiro played quite well in games, but now we haven't got an extra person. And do you remember 2 years ago when I think we had a transfer window where we'd lost, trying to think who it was now. I think when Lindelof left and we had Ericsson left and we had about 10 players leave, we brought in about 4 or 5 players. The club said, we don't have European football, so we don't mind having a smaller squad. I think it doesn't take much more than a quarter of a brain to realise that, okay, now we have a lot more games again. We need to, if we're going to have a few players leaving the club, we need to bring in at least 3 or 4 players more than leave to get back where we were 2 years ago. That's
Yeah.
not asking And again, that's not us asking for like £80 million signings. We're just asking for bodies in midfield.
Yeah, and they're not making £80 million signings either. I mean, their average spend this season has been about 42 million. That's been their average spend if you cut between Santos and Tillemans. So they've got the money to do it. Amortized, that's 10 million. That's 8 million a year amortized per player. They've got about 480 million. So 8 million a year amortized. It just, yeah. Anyway, I mean, we could go on. Look, in terms of the PSG game, right? Let's try and get back to this because it's out of our control. It really is, and we can go around in a rabbit hole otherwise. It's going to be interesting to see how this midfield plays against, say, Vitinha and João Neves. I think that's going to be a really interesting. Cavacheli on the wing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Beraldo will be also in the squad. Marquinhos, I suspect, will be in the squad. They may start Chevalier. They may start Sortov, the goalkeeper. So it's. I think it's going to be an interesting game to see who starts for PSG also, and it's going to be interesting
in terms
to see.
of like for next season. Do you think Michael Carrick's going to be under? I know
Safanov,
you don't want to talk about transfers too much, but do you think Michael Carrick's going to be struggling to replicate what he did last season? So I think last season he probably got above what people expected when he moved in and took charge in January. So do you think Carrick's got enough about himself and with the squad to actually compete on the Premier League and the Champions League? Because it is kind of difficult, isn't it? He didn't have to do this last season, did he? He didn't have to rotate at all, but he's not going to be able to play this lineup, say, on a Thursday, on a Wednesday, and then play the same lineup on a Saturday or Sunday, and then keep doing the same thing. He's going to have to shift out of his comfort zone and put people in that maybe he wouldn't have done last season.
I mean, the problem we have is that we're not even covering bench options entirely. And then, so where's the cover if someone gets suspended or if someone gets injured? Where's the cover for that? Where's the cover for if somebody's form dips off? Which will happen. It happens all the time in every single team, every single campaign, and you bring someone else in. So they're not thinking outside the box. They've asset stripped last year, and they're almost stuck on that position. So I think he will struggle. I think that's the problem, and that's the sad thing about it. It's almost like because they haven't got 115% of revenue that they can spend because they're not in Europe, and they do this every time they're in the Champions League, because they don't have the higher revenue that they can spend as a part of the PSR, the LPSR, and the new SCR, squad cost ratio, and it's down to 70%. Under UEFA, they spend 15% less, and it's crazy because that's the time you need to be spending 15% more because you've got the money from the Champions League. So it's really, really annoying. I think it doesn't make any sense other than these are people who are in control of the club who have absolutely no interest in making us successful in the long run. I mean, it's very plain to see. It's their third year in. You and I all know, that we need to get players in. Now, they may bring them in next week, but the truth is they should have brought them in 2 or 3 weeks ago. There were players out there that didn't travel to the World Cup that we were linked with that we could have got quite easy. Vlahovic, Mateta, Hall, Wharton, Scott, all available. All didn't travel. If you really wanted to get people in, you could have done, and they haven't, and another fullback. So
do you remember last year? Last year, we said, okay, well done getting Lamans, a really good signing. The issue is, why do we get him so late that we had to play Bayern for so many games last season?
Deadline
day, stupid, wasn't it? Do you remember? I said to people about a week before we signed Lamans, I said, "There's no way we don't sign a goalkeeper because if we don't, it's the biggest mistake we've ever made." And why do we wait so long? It's stupid because he could have played more games. Like Cunha, actually Benjamin Sesko was signed too late, so he missed a lot. He wasn't ready for the start of the season.
Yeah,
and it's just really annoying that the signings are good, but there's no. At least they got Tielemans and Santos done relatively early. But if there is a third midfielder, if they're holding out for too many, it's like, come on, Man United. This is like Frankie Jong part two. He doesn't want to join Man United. He doesn't want to leave Real Madrid. So even if Real Madrid said he can go, do you think Man United's going to be front of the queue? Like I know some of the I know transfer experts say Man United's the only team that can afford him, but do we have the will to spend that much money on a player? I would be very surprised if we did that.
But Bawardi's still available. Bring him in. Scott's still available. Bring him in. Wharton's still available. It's got to the point that they've worn me down to a degree that it's kind of like I don't entirely care too much now, because this is what they do. They weigh you down so much that sometimes you're just grateful when someone comes in. At least we've got a body. At least we won't be short. But that's not how you win anything. You need to be bringing in a very good profile who meets the demands and was your first or second choice. They seem to be going for the mid-tier signings again. And this is the other thing. I need to see them get an elite player in. Get elite players in, because I need to see that. I need to see you can do those deals. I can see you can do the mid-tier deals. I can see you can do the release clauses. I can see you can pay more than you should. I need to see better. We deserve better, Rich.
Do you know what the crazy thing is? Like in terms of like social media, YouTube, myself and you have probably been some of the more patient among fans, are the more of the less angry. But
yeah,
I saw a comment in the chat, and I think I hit the wall maybe when Matheus Fernandes went to Spurs, not because I wanted him, but I was just getting frustration that nothing's happening. And Sporting Gold was in the chat about 5 minutes ago saying that he hit the wall 2 days ago. And do you know what it is? I think a lot of Man United fans I speak to, we had relatively different kind of expectations at the start of the window. Some people were like really annoyed with Ineos, like say last year. And some people, like myself, were not trusting Ineos, but just thinking, okay, right, let's just see what happens in the transfer window and then discuss it rather than getting angry first. And as it's got through August now, more and more people are just going, come on, this is like bullshit now. Like we're seeing like, say, Sangara go to Brentford and we're going, right, Brentford can do this deal. He's a really good player. Why can't Man United do this deal? And we're looking at other options now and thinking, like, who else wanted to get Tielemans? Like, who else would have got, say, the player we're going to buy from Atalanta, Edison, when that deal fell through? It just feels a bit like Man United had a short list, and it's like that they couldn't get their top targets, and now it's almost like they've gone to Tesco and they've gone, oh shit, they haven't got this ingredient. Oh well, let's just buy some random stuff that's cheap from like the value bin, and hopefully.
It's not in the value. You know what we're looking at? We're looking at those offers that they do at the end of the day, because the expiry date
we used to call
is
it
today.
when I was a student. We used to sometimes go there and we called it like Charlie the Damned, where something would be like, instead of being a quid, it'd be like 20 pence. And Man United shopping like students, where they're going, okay, we came into
and you end up with food poisoning.
Yeah, we were going to buy like some of Waitrose finest, but unfortunately we decided to go to Netto next door because we got a really good deal.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're chucking it up the next day because it's no good. It's crazy.
Exactly. Then you go home and go, look at what we got, what value we got, and then you go, oh, this is bloody disgusting.
It's hideous. The other problem we have, right? Whoever they get in, it takes them 3 or 4 weeks to start anyway. We've seen that with every single player we're signing we've bought. They don't just slip into the squad. It takes them 2 or 3 weeks. So September is what we're looking at, where we can start, getting decent momentum in the team. That's really poor management. That's really poor management from the top. You give your manager the best chance to succeed. You give him the tools. They failed him again.
Do you know what the thing is? That's probably going to make me more annoyed than anything else. Is that we had lots of streams where we're talking about, will Man United get Areola? Will they get Tielemans? No, not Tielemans. Will they get Nagelsmann? Will they stick with Michael Carrick? And all through the streams, we're talking about them like months and months ago. And I said, like, whatever happens, just back the manager properly. Like, I don't really care if we pivot towards a different manager, but just back them properly. And we're having this debate, weren't we, about is Carrick good enough? And I said, just give Carrick a chance. Like, give him some players and give him a credible squad. And I'm going to go for a few of the comments. I mean, someone said we're at Lidl.
Lidl's okay. I shop there.
Yeah, there's a couple of people saying don't hate on Lidl. Don't hate on Lidl, guys.
Yeah.
We're not shopping in Lidl. We're literally
Good
just
food.
putting things out of the bin. No,
We
so
can't
I'll
all
go
go to
for a few.
Whole Foods all the time.
Look, I can't put comments on the screen, but post some comments and questions. I'll just go for a few of the chat now, see what people are thinking. Cake said he's been watching for an hour, but obviously too angry to write. He said it's over. I mean, it's not started yet, Cake. I mean, I'll say this: at least let the football season start before you say it's over. Like we haven't played a game yet. Um, and Biyuchi Genghis in the chat, Nice fan said, I genuinely thought we'd get, say, Fernandez. I actually, do you remember we did the stream about Matheus Fernandez? I was like so sure we are going to get Matheus Fernandez that I was just, when Spurs signed him for 85 million, I was just like, what the hell's going on? Like, I just don't know what's going on anymore. And that's probably why I hit the wall, because the day before that, I did a big stream and I was saying, look, guys, I can't think of any rational reason
I
why
remember,
Matheus
yeah.
Fernandez would look at Spurs, look at Man United and go, I fancy a piece of Spurs. And then 12 hours later, it's here we go. And I was like, I give up. I give up on content creation. I don't know what's going on.
Do you remember me in the comments?
I did say,
You
didn't I? I
said,
said, I have an
yeah.
emergency stream. And I was just thinking, my God, this is it. It's happened already.
It is crazy. And the concern I have is the same concern that I had last year and the same concern I had the year before that. We're not competing like a team that wants to win the league. And the more years that we don't compete as a team that wants to win, it doesn't mean we do. But if we don't compete and get competitive, the people that are winning the league are getting further and further and further away. And that's a real concern. It really is.
Real
All
saying
jokes
that
aside.
Liverpool might get Barcola for about 130 million. And if you look at it at the moment, that's double our window, isn't it? We spend actually with Rasmus Højlund being sold for 36 million, then our net spend so far is what, 51 million? And
I don't understand
surely it
Liverpool.
can't end like this. Like surely there's more to come in this window. Otherwise, this would be the worst window ever, wouldn't it? Like we wouldn't even be joking. It would be.
Yeah, I'm just on Liverpool. I think they're nuts. I don't know why they're spending so ungraciously on players. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't think they are getting good value. I certainly wouldn't be paying that for him. And some of the signings they made last summer, I wouldn't be spending that kind of
I'd have
money either.
I'd have gone for Rogers over Barcola. Rogers has got a good shot and end product.
Yeah,
Barcola just reminds me a bit of, I don't know, pick like anyone from like say a few players like a
yeah,
Traore, really, really fast, but like does he get goals? Does he cause problem? Like he's just very, very
yeah.
quick, isn't he? I think he's not obviously he's not rubbish, but I just think for the amount of money you're spending, if he's 130 million, it's a massive waste of money. Like
Due is head and shoulders better than Barcola, and he's nearer that price tag than Barcola. Barcola's an 80 million player at best. At best, a 17 million player more sensibly. But he's in a Champions League winning side, and so there's a premium. But I don't think he's a great player. And let Liverpool do
Genghis
it.
said he's a glorified Garnacho, which is about the lowest form.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair
but
enough.
I don't know what his goal scoring record is, but it's pretty low, isn't it? So going back to dragging us back to PSG, what are your thoughts then in terms of like, I don't know, are you expecting Man United to win this match? Like I know we did really well against Atletico. I was traveling at the time, so I just saw a bit of highlights after the match, but I guess at the moment, Man United seem to be a bit more advanced fitness-wise than some of the teams they're playing against. I'm going to say I think Man United might come out of this game looking quite good, but I think that might be on PSG not having their main guys back in and around the team, and maybe that Tielemans, say Santos,
But you've got to
it has
remember
got full
this.
fitness.
Sorry, Rich. You've got to remember this is a PSG team who have so much depth in their squad. You're looking at probably Safanov starting again. Zach will play a right back instead of Hakimi. Zabrini will play centre back along with Beraldo. Mendes left back. Zaire Emery might get a look in, I'm not sure. João Neves will play there, Bettina will play there, and then you've got Mbaye on the right side. You've got Kavasheli on the left side. You've got Kolo Muani as a striker. That's a tough competitive team, you know. So I think it'll be a real test. I think it'll be a tasty match. I think when I look at that, I want to see these players play those players, and I want to see how they perform. I think it's tasty. This is a great thing about this season. All said and done, we're going to get more games like this. We're going to get the Champions League. We're going to get interesting matches and matchups. So, you know, we've talked a lot about the noise and things that are out of our control. Let them get on with it, right? That's their headache. But what I'm really looking forward to is these matchups. And, you know, if the recruitment picks up pace, you know, it just makes those matchups even more exciting. But there's enough quality there for the matchups that are coming ahead in the Champions League that I'm really, really enthralled about. And this weekend is a sneak peek into what that's going to look like. We've been starved of Champions League for over 2 seasons, and we've had an abysmal 2 seasons. Let's have it right. The last 2 seasons we've experienced have been 2 of the poorest seasons in my lifetime, bar Carrick's reprieve for us in the last 15 matches or so.
The last time we're in the Champions League, we didn't even have a professional goalkeeper, did we? We had Anana that was
hideous.
he was playing like he was match fixing. So
systematically lost us matches.
I know. Do you think that's probably one? I know Man United fans are generally not happy at the moment, but I think the Champions League might be a nice welcome breaker. We haven't had European football of the Champions League status now for a few years, and I think I know there's going to be a mix of range of opinions on how we're going to do, but I think we're going to be doing okay, at least in the group stage. And maybe this is going to be it's going to be a good experience for the younger players who got in as well. And maybe this is going to be also a wake up call. If we do play against a serious team and do, as people were expecting, struggle, maybe this is going to be the sort of wake up call we got in '94 when Barcelona beat us badly. Because I remember watching that game when Barcelona beat us 4-0, thinking, damn, we're nowhere near the level. But we thought we were quite good then because we're doing well in the Premier League. But I think now we have had some good results against, say, Arsenal, Liverpool, City last season. But I think Paris Saint-Germain can be a different prospect, certainly in a competitive environment. So again, maybe if, like I said, like a lot of the stars aren't there and PSG still give us a footballing lesson, then maybe that's going to be an omen of like we need to get some more quality in.
Yeah,
What are you thinking in terms of score prediction then for this match?
I'm thinking it's on neutral ground. I'm going Man United 4, Paris Saint-Germain 2. 4-2 I'm going.
I can certainly see PSG scoring a couple of goals.
Yeah.
If anyone's got any final questions or comments or score predictions, we will be doing. I think we'll do a stream after the match on Saturday. There will be normal kind of news content tomorrow, but I think I'm not sure whether there'll be a watch long for this match, but there will be a stream at full time to discuss.
What's your score prediction, Richie?
So I'm thinking, Joe, I'm thinking Man United might do okay in this match, and I'll say I think there's going to be goals in this one, maybe like a 3-2. Oh, actually, maybe 2-1, like a 2-1 win. But I get the feeling that might be because I think Man United have got a few more attacking options back than PSG. But I guess it's gonna be one of those games where in the second half I think it's going to be backups versus backups. So potentially, I think Paris Saint-Germain might have more depth than us, and we might if we throw on the academy players in the second half, it might be a tough one. But I don't know. I think Man United might win, but again, it's pre-season, and I think PSG got a huge amount of players missing as well. Cake says he's predicting PSG 4, Manchester United 0, a good old battering. Niche fans questioning whether they're 40 to us. What do you reckon, Niche fan? I mean, Man United have looked okay in pre-season. Niche fan's gone for a 1-1 match. Mickey says, is there room for Thwaites this weekend? I really like him. I don't know. Do you reckon there's option for Thwaites to come on?
Yeah, look, second half you can bring on Thwaites, you can bring on Fletcher, you can bring on Lacey, you can bring on JJ Gabriel can get some minutes. Harry Amass will come on. Vitek might come on. And we just on the Vitek deal, we're selling him to Middlesbrough for 40 million. We've got a massive buyback clause and a massive sell-on clause, so we've got all areas covered. He may well come back to us at some point.
It
I
feels
like
a
the
bit
way,
like a loan deal, but with some money changing
with
hands. That
money.
if it doesn't work out, he gets. Is that what can you do with Vitek? If he wants to leave, he wants to leave, and if he wants
Yeah,
first team football, I think it's much better for him to go to Middlesbrough than it is to sit on the bench getting angry about lack of first team chances.
exactly.
So, and
And he'll
if he does
develop.
amazing,
Yeah,
then maybe we can bring him back. But again,
exactly.
it's difficult, isn't it? Because he wants to be first team, so he'd
And
have to do something pretty phenomenal, and Lamans would have to suddenly drop off for that to be an option. But I don't know. It's fortunately that's the deal.
so second half, just on this. So look, Amas can come in for Shaw. Yora can come in for Maguire. Maserati can come in for Delo. So that still keeps it fairly strong. In midfield, Mount can come in alongside one of those midfielders who will stay on. Lacey can come on. Diallo can come on. So the JJ Gabriel can come on. Tyler Fletcher can come on. There's still good kind of good quality that can
There's quite a
replace
good
those
option there.
players.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll go through some of the predictions. Big up to you, Luca, in the chat. Luca says Manchester United 3, PSG 1. Rob's going for a 2-2. And as Pop points out, Pop did actually have a very good comment as well about, I think it might be either Harry Enfield or the Fast Show about going out shopping and coming back with some random shit. That seems like what we're doing. But I was thinking, Rob was United, but he did say Paris Saint-Germain 2 or 3 weeks behind Manchester United in terms of preparation, and I think we saw that against Atletico that Man United are a bit ahead of the game in terms of like match fitness, which is obviously good.
Yeah.
But again, it might give a bit of a false impression.
They lost, didn't they, to Mallorca 3-0 the last match.
Yeah, so maybe I should have gone like three. I was going to say 3-2, but I thought I don't know if I can see that many goals. But you never know. You never know. And yeah, Pop said cheery crowd. Yeah, this is Man United fans at the moment. I think until Man United start winning games in the Premier League, people are going to be a bit negative as well. Ginga said we got to sell back. So buy back, sell on clause. Yeah, we put every clause in possible with Vitek, haven't we? So
And
it
we
is
did the
what it
same with
is regarding that one.
Fredrickson as well. We did the same. I like the way they're selling players. I think that's clever. And look, this is the week we're selling players. X is going to be another one we're trying to move on. So it's hopefully this is a selling week, and next week is a buying week.
Yeah. I hope so. It's a shame the buying week can't take place in July, though, isn't it?
Yes, or even June. Yeah, somebody needs to have a word. Somebody needs to have a word with them.
Yeah, no, it's definitely saying with a fast show. I'm definitely talking about. I think Stephanie will know the reference to the fast show, but it's definitely Man United and fast. For people that don't know the show, is obviously we're obviously not fast, are we? But so United aren't compatible with speed. So with the Embremo settings was very slow. The problem I've got with the better is that I know people say that there's like 3 weeks to go in the transfer window. The problem is it takes 3 weeks for Man United to like loan out Xerxes, doesn't it? So I'm not sure what else we're going to get done in that sort of time.
But also it takes 3 weeks for a player to settle and start. So it's kind of like those signings should have been, like you say, mid-July at the latest. Ready for pre-season. It's poor from them. It really is. That's where they've really kind of let us all down. It's kind of like get your signings in, get it done. Be a serious club. We're not there
Just before we finish, there's a couple of comments. Genghis is saying he's still deluding himself that Man United will do a madness late in the window. Just keep hoping, Genghis. Okay, but
I like
don't pin too much on it happening. But there is a chance that Man United might do something crazy at the end of the window, but it might not necessarily be a good thing.
Just remember,
finish, though,
just quickly, we're on Amazon, so the whole world is watching. The whole world is seeing this nonsense.
it's not just Man
That's
United
me.
fans that are going to be embarrassed, then, is it? It's
No.
going to be like a comedy spectacle. What I might do is I might screenshot this and like put it on like trying to say I might do it, put it as a short and put it on what's the other platform, on TikTok or something. Is there
Yeah.
anything you change before I do that? Because I'll see if people have any comments. Is there any change you'd make to this lineup? Because I think this is probably, I reckon it's probably not far off what we see.
I would love to see Euro in there, but I think he's going to go for experience. I know Carrick, he will want to win this match, so he may just lean on the experience of Maguire over Euro. Although Euro has had a good a couple of games in the pre-season, so it's I'm fair on him, but I suspect he'll go for that. I would love to see Euro next to Evan, but I think that's for me. Uh, you've got Dorgu on the right. I would probably have, yeah, I'd flip that Ambimo, Cunha up front, and I
Yeah,
know you
actually,
were
I
just
don't think he
showing,
would start Dorgu on
yeah,
the
yeah,
right.
and
I think he'd
Cunha up
probably
the
play him on
top.
the left.
But
But
that was
actually, yeah,
just you
that probably
showing
makes more sense.
that was just you showing versatility because we had this to begin with, but you were saying about how they can circulate and play in different positions.
Yeah, no, that's my message to Carrick. Just try it, Carrick. You never know. It might be something we need to do. It might.
Yeah, 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 exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
I'd probably say at the moment, I would. I think Dorgu might be a better option than Ahmad Jallow in terms of if you're chasing a goal or trying to get a more credible threat. But we'll see. I think he's good competition for anyone. I think he keeps Ahmad Jallow and Cunha honest. I think Dorgu is a significant threat to their positions. So I think it's been a decent signing. Um, but yeah, no, what I might do is I might do a short, then like Bilal suggested. But guys, thank you for watching. I'm sorry I couldn't put comments on the screen, but sometimes software doesn't cooperate. I mean, we can just blame Jim Radcliffe because he's causing most of people's anguish at the moment. So add
Yeah, all roads
restream
lead to Jim.
functionality to the list. So, but we will be live tomorrow. 1 p.m. is the time we go live in the daytime. And then on a Friday, it depends on news. If I do something, I might do something short and a bit earlier on. I might do, if people are interested, just put a yes in the comments if you're interested. I might do a call-in show tomorrow evening at like 7 p.m. and just for like 90, say 60 minutes. If you want to come on and say, to be honest, like, it's probably going to be annoyance if there's not something significant happening. But if you want the forum to like just say, then I'll do that for 60 minutes. People can come on and have their say. Until then, we will be looking at doing something on the weekend. But massive thanks to Weeds Are Better for keeping the positivity going until about the 5th of August when we all hit the wall. And for everybody else watching, thanks for watching. If you are new, please subscribe. We will be trying to do regular content a couple of times a day. And until then, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.